Okay, so this is part two of this little series of videos where I'm going to basically tell you what I have available for my ministry, and basically it's offered to you. What do if you need some help organizing things, because you probably already know what kind of lighting you want to do. And that does bring me to a point where if you need some help or some advice or point in the right direction, building a lighting system, I can do that for you too. I built the one here at the church, and uh, there's a lot of variables. I couldn't give you some kind of general idea. There's a lot of different ways to do lighting and the different technology and everything. So, you can always email me if you need some kind of pointers on that. Um, but yeah, so this is a handbook that we use to guide us through the different services and productions and events that we have at our church. And it's labeled for the technicians because what we generalized here is we have three different types of positions. We have designers, technicians, and electricians. And so what each of these things do, they have a specific role. Designers, they create the design, the vision. What is the lighting going to look like? Technicians execute it, and electricians assist with the electrical side of lighting and making sure that we're safe. So all three teams add something very important to the equation. So this is going to be geared towards executing stuff. We're not going to get into a lot of the color mixing and stuff like that. That's for the designer handbook right over there. So let's get started. So one of the things that you want to do is have a service lighting checklist set up, as well as breakdown. I thought this was double-sided. I want to reprint this. Breakdown. My bad. So, and these are all very specific to what we do. So, obviously yours is going to be different, but the idea is to have some kind of checklist as a reminder of what the team should do. I've also made a video of how to set up and break down our system. So, being able to see it and then having something to read off of as well, it helps. Service lighting assignments. This should really be called a cue sheet, or I should say a magic sheet. Some updating I have to do. But anyway, we have uplights, right? And so we have DMX addresses for them, as well as what channel mode and the programs for them. If they're not going to be used via DMX, then they'll be programmed, part of the pre-programmed thing on the fixture, and then where they located. So we have a couple that aren't working right now, unfortunately. NFG means not functioning good. It actually originally means, well, the F word means, it's no effing good, basically. That's what that is. But not functioning good if you want to be clean about it. So, yeah. So this is a board sheet, a cue sheet, I should say. And this tells you the different cues that happen, right? What is the cue? And what do we call it? What is it called on? When do you execute the cue? Okay, so the cue, or I should say what number in the cue, the actual cue, and when you actually do it. Like what are you doing? I should say describing the cue. What are you doing? And then when do you execute it? The color mixing guide. So what we've done is the lighting that we use, the colors that we use are the primary, secondary colors of light. And so with that, those are our standard mixing colors. Okay. And so I've color coordinated them, RGB. That's always how it is when you're doing color mixing. And so that's the value for red, that's the value for green, that's the value for blue. That's why it's not even labeled. So the color you want to make, that's how you make it. Then the Wi-Fi parts that we use have different colors built in. And so I just went out, and what I did was I looked at the color, and then I looked at colors on a color sheet that I'll show you eventually. But there's a giant color sheet, and you just look at the colors on the color sheet and see which one matches the unnamed color on the par, and so I just named the colors, and those were what I named them. This is a quad fixture, which means it uses RGBA, which is amber. So now it's an amber in there as well. Um, for the offertory, tithes and offering, I actually found colors that kind of mean like wealth and harvest and things like that. And I've actually allowed the technicians to decide which color they want to use whenever we're collecting the offering. So that's kind of a neat little thing, empowerment type of thing for the technicians, because they don't deal with design, but they have kind of that ability to. And then with communion as well, and using color, color meaning, color psychology, and again we'll talk about that a lot in the handbook there. But so these are both biblical representation of blood. So I did scarlet, crimson, and then of course red. So, and again, technicians are allowed to choose which one. And we have two services. So one service, a technician might do scarlet. Another technician comes in and decides on red. So it kind of keeps things fresh for those different points of the service. So you're not seeing the same thing over and over and over unless everybody likes the same color. But it adds some mixing and fresh yada yada yada. Whenever we have baptisms, Nia, she's one of the line designers here. She just created a color. I couldn't find a name for it, so now it's just called Nia's water. And the same for me. I created the color, and so it's kind of named after me since there's no name for it. So if a designer creates a color and there's no official name for it, then we just name it after the designer who made that color. We also have other colors for water. So again, whenever we have baptisms, we can kind of mix it up and do things and all that. Then we have themes: rainbow, baby, fruit, flowers. We did that one for Mother's Day, kind of obvious. Military, so like Veterans Day, Memorial Day. You got military, birthstones, electric. And again, all the color coordinates for this are RGB, always RGB. Schools, we have a service every year where we acknowledge everyone who's graduated middle school and up. So during those services, we kind of, this is our way of celebrating as well, putting up our own school colors. So, it's kind of cool. Song design chart. Now, we have a lot of songs that we sing here at the church. And one of the things about it is when we first started, we were just starting to learn how to light up these songs. Now, our church is 20 years old, almost 21, so we'll be allowed to actually drink real wine for communion. No, but the church is like 20 years old. I've been here for 19, just about 19 years. So, I've seen some stuff. And I've heard a lot of these songs. And again, I'll talk about it more in depth in the designer handbook, but every song that we sing has colors that are associated with it. So as time went on, I was able to build up a list. And so a designer just picks the colors, writes them down, and then a technician comes in and will be able to, if, for the songs that are labeled for the service, they just come in and find the colors associated and then plant those in. So we've sung a lot of songs, quite a bit of songs. Yep. Some songs only have one color, and that's fine. We usually like to do two colors. We don't do more than two colors. So it's either one or two colors, and that's kind of a general rule for. I think one color is risky because sometimes it could kind of be like a boring monotone type of thing. Too many colors, you end up mixed messages, too many messages coming in at a time. So 2 or 3 is usually where you want to be. For us, we do 2 or 1. Still going through. Now, there are some times where a designer may not have given colors for a song or some point of a service, but for a song. If not, then the technician knows to come here and just plug in some generic colors. So even if a designer isn't on duty for a particular week, and we sing 3 songs in the first service and 4 songs in the second. So each song is going to be covered. And so, that was a point of emphasis for me. Troubleshooting guide. Again, this is all specific to what kind of equipment you have, but you definitely want to have a troubleshooting guide. And so I created this one for various scenarios of what would happen with a light. If the DMX settings are off, if our lights are blinking, if they're flickering, there is a difference. If the uplight simply won't work for whatever reason. Okay. I also have this, a lighting equipment incident report. I think these are very important to document what happens with your equipment. So I have here who's reporting it, when, which service, production, or event, what was the problem, what did you do, what happened after that, and if there were any fixtures, list the fixtures. Now we label all of our fixtures. We have some tape and we just marker and everything. And so we have 8 uplights. So if something happens to an uplight, which one was it? Well, it was uplight number 4. We have 2 follow spots, so which follow spot? Follow spot number 2. So things like that, so we can avoid trying to figure out which fixture in the first place was the problem. Because then you're troubleshooting a fixture that's perfectly fine. So I would recommend, creating some kind of incident report so that, when something happens, we can keep track of it. I also have all of the instruction manuals for all of our equipment. The PARs that we have. These are some rope lights. What's this? I think this is for the stand. The stands that we have. Yeah, these are for the stands, for the transceiver, the follow spot, the strobe, the flame, the light board, the fog machine, another fog machine thing. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of right here in the handbook for them. So especially for troubleshooting purposes, they can look in the handbook and see if there's any kind of reference point to fix a problem in there. But that's pretty much it for the technician handbook. There's some extra documents in here that just sometimes if we're working on a special theme, then a designer will create something from scratch and just say these are the colors that we're going to use for that particular service. Like Mother's Day, we did all flowers. So even like for the songs, we don't use what was in the song chart. We just have a certain flower next to a flower and things like that. So that's kind of how that works sometimes. But yeah, this is our handbook for technicians to operate during services and productions and things like that. So definitely would be a good idea to have something like this on hand. I mean, once people get the hang of a service, they kind of don't need a lot of the stuff that's in here, but it's still a good reference point anyway. Because sometimes I have to look in the book and say, what did I write down? And it's even worse because you're the one that wrote it. But yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is old, obviously, but this is an assignment sheet. Let people know when they're supposed to be lighting. We have an 8 o'clock service, a 10:30 service. Sometimes we only have one service if it's like a holiday. I believe this was Easter. This was probably Easter Sunday. So sometimes we just have one service that day, and so it might start at 10 o'clock. Although I think this year we started at 9:30. But yeah, usually when we have one service, it's at 10 o'clock. So yeah, you want to have some kind of sheet available for the team. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, but you want to make sure that they know what they're doing when they're doing it. So you can see my name a lot in there. I light just about every week, every service. All right, so the next video will probably be the longest, which is the designer handbook. And then we'll talk about the lighting Bible, and that's going to be all kinds of fun. But yeah, up next is designer. So once again, links are in the description, email as well. So if you have any questions about what's in here and how they could apply to your church, you can just let me know. Hopefully I'll be able to help you. I like helping people, but I already know that I'm not going to be able to help everybody. So, we'll just see what happens. Thanks for watching and keep shining.